Hi, Teresa.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing all right. You know that it's a bit of a high pain day for me. I was up with the puppy all night with an
Oh,
upset tummy. But I know that you're doing better than me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This has been a migraine week for me, but overall it's been good.
Yeah, you were up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a migraine too.
Yes, I was. Uh,
No fun.
yeah.
Well, I am so excited to welcome you to the live. I'm so excited to have you. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell
Okay.
us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm Teresa. I recently had my MVD August 31st of this year, but I've been living with trigeminal neuralgia since 2015. So I had it quite a while, for a long time before I finally made the decision to get the MVD. And so now I'm about a little bit over 3 months post-op and just learning to navigate life now after the MVD.
I love it. You just recently made a big move. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, so I have not been back to work since my MVD. And an interesting part of this journey is that I actually lost my job for extending that time, but it's something that I think I will never regret. I think it was the right decision, and so I took more time than I expected for the MVD just to make sure that I was ready to go back to work. So now I'm actually out of state. I just started a job last week, or this week, I guess you can say, this Wednesday. And so now I am out of state starting a brand new job. So,
That is so exciting, and I am so proud of you for taking such a big step. That's a big step in anybody's life,
thank you.
but 3 months post MVD is such a badass move, Teresa.
Thank you. It's a lot. It's a lot. So thank you so much. Thanks for being there for me when I'm calling you. I'm not feeling good.
Of course, always. You know that.
Yeah.
So let's go back and talk more about your MVD. And like you said, you had TN for 6 years. So what finally brought you to the decision to have MVD?
So it's funny because I was actually somebody that always was like, heck no, not doing it. I just wasn't comfortable with the idea of it. And then around 2019, I was having some complications with my health with like endometriosis. And from that, it resulted in the worst flare up of my life. So really bad hormonal fluctuation that put me in the worst flare up throughout the 6 years that I ever had, to where medication wasn't working. They added medication and it just made me kind of like a zombie, and it didn't help. And it was just the worst. I spent over 30 days straight not sleeping because I
Oh
just,
my God.
even my good side, just the good side would even get aggravated. Not the TN side, just touching my good side would aggravate my TN side. And it was just something I had never seen. And my doctor, all she would just tell me would be, up your medicine, up your medicine. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to just up my medicine. Well, then you need to consider surgery. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then she's like, well, you really don't have a lot of options. And so it was just one of those things where it took a lot of time for me to finally come to the conclusion of, I think it's time, because also just the medications and the side effects that were around the medicine was also starting to really affect me.
That totally makes sense. So where did you go from there? What was your next step?
So where I went from there was I started just looking into, of course, neurosurgeons, um, the well-known ones, the ones that are popular. I looked at just a bunch of different MVD support groups on Facebook. I went to one of those to just look at the doctors that they were talking about there. And then I did my own research trying to find the right surgeon, because it's such a rare condition. Surgeons aren't, not every surgeon is going to know how to perform the MVD. So I was trying to make sure I found the right one. I actually went to multiple consultations with different neurosurgeons, just to get an idea. So I think that's something that's really important as well. You don't necessarily have to just go to one. I'm not going to say mine was the right one for you, but I think everyone should definitely do their research in finding the right surgeon, and making sure they answer all of your questions, making sure you're comfortable with them. I think that's really important.
I love that you did that, and I love advocating for getting multiple opinions and multiple options and doing what's best for you.
Yeah.
And just as my normal disclaimer, these are just Teresa's experiences. Just because it works for her does not mean it's going to work for you. So please consult with your medical team if you're interested in anything that we're talking about.
Definitely.
So let's go back to your consultations
Yeah,
because you traveled out of state for both of them,
I did.
and you saw some bitty, excuse me, listen to my TN brain. You saw some pretty big names in
Yeah.
the field. So if you feel comfortable, do you want to talk about your experiences with those two neurosurgeons?
Yeah, I saw, so I went to two consultations. I went to one, and I believe he's in Washington. At the time, he was in Washington. Now he's moved to Sanford, Dr. Lim, Dr. Michael Lim. And then I also went to Orange, California to UC Irvine, and I saw Dr. Linsky. So those were the two that I think are pretty popular when it comes to the MVDs. Really good success rates they both have. And so I went to both of them. And it was probably a year in between both because I saw Dr. Lim right before COVID hit. Right when COVID was starting is when I saw Dr. Lim, and I had to stop that process. And then I was going to see Dr. Linsky the same year, but then with COVID, just all the different changes, I kept canceling the appointment, I kept canceling the flight. And so I waited about a year after to finally see Dr. Linsky.
Wow, okay. So what was your experience with Dr. Lim?
With Dr. Lim, it was interesting because I found him actually through he has a great videos on YouTube on
Yeah.
explaining the MVD process, trigeminal neuralgia. So I was really excited about seeing him. I just with him there's differences I think just like with any other every other doctor you see with him, I thought the appointment was just a little rushed. It wasn't as expected as what I was expecting. I was expecting kind of a lot of questions, expecting you to really just dig into what's going on with me and things like that. So I'm not sure if it was just that particular day, but it was more of just the nurse was explaining all of the different procedures. So she explained the rhizotomy, the MVD, and I forget what the injection one is called, but she explained that one to me. So she explained all of the different options, said they could do it. And so she spent a good time explaining all of that. And then I saw him for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. So it was a really fast appointment. So I was a little discouraged by that
Okay.
aspect.
Yeah.
Came to the appointment just because I had traveled all the way from Tennessee to see him. So I was like, that's it. And my sister went with me too. So she took a lot. She's taken so much time throughout this process with me.
Kudos to sister.
Yes, yes.
Um, so that's an interesting experience and kind of discouraging, like you said.
Yeah, it was.
Um, so what was your experience with Dr. Linsky?
So with Dr. Lindsay, it was different in the sense of I'm not sure if they just have different styles. Of course, everyone does, but with him, it did. He took probably about over an hour with me talking, and so
Wow.
what I really liked about Dr. Linsky was that he asked me about all of my triggers. He asked me just really specific TN questions that like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. He's like, what's your triggers? Is it more of touch? Is it more of sensations? Do you remember your first onset attack? Do you remember what was happening? Every little thing about TN about me, he was wanting to know. So I really did appreciate that. I really liked as well that he took the time and, of course, assessing me and my TN and what would work best for me. So he said, I do think that you are a candidate for the MVD, but he also spent a lot of time, which I really appreciate, explaining to me everything that's around the MVD as far as, of course, the positives and what everybody wants out of a result from the MVD, as well as, the things that we're not expecting. And so I really appreciated just the honesty that he had when it came to that. And I think I know sometimes I've heard that he has like a reputation of being a little blunt and then things like that. I personally really appreciated the transparency that he had. He was like, I want you to fully understand what you're getting yourself into, the results, the potential risks. So we sat there. Even before my surgery, I know he's like, I need you to have a family member with you here, and I want to go over this one more time because you're not going to remember. You are way too stressed about this surgery, and you're not going to remember half of what we're talking about. So my sister came with me for that to make sure that, she could reiterate everything and remember everything. So I really just appreciate the time that he took in just explaining everything, the good, the bad. It's going to take some time to recover and things like that.
I love that he took that extra time, and it sounds like the appointment was really personalized to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like that as well. He sat there with me and even like looked at my scans, my MRI scans, and was like, okay, so this angle is when they slice your head like this. You're looking from up to down to up. This is from left to right. And just explain, I have no idea what he's looking at. But he's like, there's the trigeminal nerve. And there's. So I just appreciate, I don't know what you're seeing, but I appreciate you trying to explain it to me.
I love that. So it
Yeah,
sounds like you went with Dr. Linsky for your MVD.
I did. I did. I
So
did. I don't
how,
regret it. I don't regret it at all. I think I always tell people it's the biggest investment of my life that I've done, and I have no regrets.
I love that. But you said something to me the other day that it wasn't an investment,
What the
the MVD, that it was a part of your lifestyle and it was doing something for your health, so you don't
Yeah,
see it as an investment.
exactly. Well, I tell people right now, I don't see it as a bill, as a medical bill at
There you
all.
go.
I don't see it as a bill whatsoever. To me, this is the best thing I could have done in investing in my life, in my health, in trying to fight back at this, because the medication was giving me a lot of different complications as far as memory. I was repeating things all the time, which I still do. I'm still having I think he said that's going to take time, but I still repeat things a lot. My memory, I still have memory issues. My friends tell me all the time, you already told me the story like 5 times.
I love that. So how was the MVD process?
It was a lot. It was a lot. I think a lot of it has been, I took a lot of time just talking to other people that have had MVDs. Hey, what can I expect? But then at the same time, you never know what you're going to expect because TN is so different for everybody. I don't think there's one person that I've talked to that's been like, oh my gosh, I experienced everything you experienced. It's like one person had this, the other person, oh yeah, I got that too. And then the other person's like, oh yeah, I have the numbness. Oh yeah, I had the ears. I didn't have this, but I have this. So it's so complex. Even throughout the MVD process, it's just different.
That's so interesting and such a good point to make, that everybody's experiences and symptoms are so different, even coming out of MVD.
Yeah, it really is.
What was like the weirdest thing coming out of MVD that you didn't expect?
What I didn't expect was definitely, so as soon as I woke up, you're out of it and you wake up, these three fingers were numb.
Oh,
I could feel my face numb, but I was like, I just had the surgery, but this was numb for like maybe 2 weeks. It was on and off. And I just kept going like this, like, I'm numb, I'm numb. And they kept telling, and I had two IVs because they had one for, of course, like to draw your blood, and then one like to instantly have like medication. So they have two IVs on you. I forget for what, but they had two. And then so they were like, let's remove this IV. Maybe it's hitting like a nerve or something. And I'm like, oh my God. And so it was really numb, but they also explained that was from, I forget what it's called. They place this thing on your head to kind of keep your head still during the
okay.
MVD. And so they explained that because of that tool, it kind of like stretches your arm and your shoulder. And then from there, your arm can feel numb for a while. So I actually had that for like 2 weeks, and it was really uncomfortable, but it's all better now.
That's crazy. It looks like Laura experienced that too.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was so wild. It was like, what in the world is this?
That's crazy. Oh, look who popped in, Teresa, just for you.
Emma! Emma! I'm obsessed.
She heard your voice and came running.
Yes.
Okay, so back to your MVD. So you traveled out of state for it.
I did.
And how was that experience? Did you go by yourself? Where did you stay after? What?
It was a lot of planning for sure. I think I actually set my date. I had my consultation with Dr. Linsky in May, and then I scheduled it for, it was at my MVD was actually September 2nd, and it got moved last minute while I was in California. So I didn't even have time to process it. I don't know if I told you that. So we had to get
No.
early because there were a few things that they wanted me to do specifically there, like a hearing test, COVID test, and things like that. And so my sister came with me. I can never just thank her enough for all she's done throughout this process, but she was with me through it all. And so we had to, there were different requirements. So I did have to stay 15 minutes like next to the hospital. So I had to be 15 minutes away from the ER. So we were looking at just different hotels. It's a very pricey process. So we looked at
Yeah.
different hotels, Airbnbs, and we kind of compared, and we figured we went with an Airbnb. That way she could cook for me. We don't have to always go out and find something to eat. Sometimes, you don't want to be just driving and stuff. So we picked an Airbnb that was right there. I could actually just see it. I could see her driving out of it when I was in the hospital, which was cool.
That's so nice.
Yeah, so we went with the Airbnb process, and we were there from August, I think, 26th to September 17th. So long while, a long time.
Wow. So that took a ton of planning.
Ton of planning, yeah.
And your sister had to carve out all that time to take care of you too.
She did. She did, and she had to adjust things for her daughter. She had to adjust her life too for that time. And even when we came back, it was a lot of just taking care of me, being there for me. She was in between jobs and decided, and I'll never be able to just say thank you enough to, like, you know what, I want to focus on you, so I'm not going to work from home. And so she took time off, to fully focus on me during that recovery process.
We cannot thank her enough for making that sacrifice for you and all the caregivers for taking all that time. That's just the sacrifice that you take care of Teresa during that time is really incredible.
Yeah.
What recovery tips do you have?
So for recovery tips, definitely, and it's something, and I'm not sure what all doctors say, but I was scared of it, but at the same time, I thank him for it now. So as soon as he saw my sister, he said, "Don't you dare baby her." He said, and I was like, "Oh my God." He was like, "Don't baby her. She needs to be up. She needs to be walking and no naps." So I don't know,
Ooh.
but she made sure I took like a lot of laps, not all day long, but maybe at least once every 2 hours, which I think that's a normal recommendation, to try to walk a little. So walk frequently, rest when you can. There's different things that I did at the hospital. I actually brought my own PJs at the hospital. I didn't want to be in my
Oh,
hospital.
okay.
Found they're so uncomfortable and just, you're exposed and stuff. So I brought like button up pajamas that I didn't have to put over my head. That was a really good suggestion that I had heard, and it was really helpful. And then another surprising thing was dry lips. So I did have like lip balm with me, and things like that. So that was helpful. And just being patient with yourself, because I kept telling myself, if you experience the blurred vision and things, I was experiencing, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know this is part of it. I know this is part of it. I know this is part of it, because it can be scary, but
Exactly.
yeah.
So how was the flying process?
That was scary. I always get scared whenever I fly, just because of, we know with TN, anything could set it off. And so ear pressure,
Yes.
the air pressure was just so scary to me. So flying there was nervous, but it wasn't as nervous as flying back. And I remember, and I know Laura's watching right now, and I want to thank her so much, because she was sending me voice memos like, "You're okay, you got this, just take your time, deep
Oh.
breaths." And she was so comforting about it. I was so nervous when I had to finally fly back to Tennessee, because, well, you never know. It's like not even a month post-op, and you're just so sensitive, and your ears are already sensitive. And so I don't chew gum yet. I've been trying, but I'm having some some numbness right now. And so I fake yawn. That's what I tell people. Like it helps wearing a mask on the plane. Nobody can see you fake yawning. But I
I
make
love
myself
that.
yawn, and that was kind of like my natural way of popping my ears without. I don't know
Oh,
about you,
okay.
but I'm scared of like
Oh,
blowing and
me too.
stretching your cheeks, and so I would just make myself yawn, and that was kind of a natural way to pop them. And I was just deep breaths, and I had earplugs as well. It was really helpful.
So no complications or anything. You were great during the flight.
Yeah, I was
Perfect.
great during the flight, and I was actually, he suggested flying. He said, I
Oh,
know you
okay.
probably don't agree with this. And I was like, really? And he was like, I think you need to fly versus driving because all those different mountain elevations, up and down, it's actually worse than flying. And so I appreciated that. So he covered it all. And so he was like, yeah, flying was better than driving. He's like, I highly recommend it. It's less stressful on the body. And so, yeah.
I love that so much. And you
Mm-hmm.
just actually posted some post MVD travel tips on your page. So make sure to check those out if you're not following Teresa already. Um, so where are you at now? What's your pain been like? What's your recovery post MVD 3 months?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So recovery's been interesting. I think I could say it's been a roller coaster because you don't know what to expect. Like we were saying, everyone's recovery is just different. As much as you try to, you think it's going to go one way and it just goes a totally different way. And so insomnia was one of my biggest surprises throughout this process. I was terrified of just not having any strength to sleep or, oh, I'm going to be sleeping in bed all day and I'm not going to be up. And that was a complete opposite. I was like, I can't sleep. That was a surprising one. But it's been good. Things have gotten better, and then there's things that I'm still working on. So, one of the things that has improved is my ears. So you do feel, and they say that's the cerebral spinal fluid. You do feel like a clogged ear symptom when you have the MVD, and they said that will go away with time. And it took about a little bit over 2 months for that, but it did go away. Um, Insomnia, it's improving, it's still there, but it's not as bad as it first was. So that's getting better. And then right now the current my current side effect that I'm dealing with is, I think, appetite. That's been another surprising one for me. And then my numbness, I was numb. I did wake up numb, and it is better, but it's a very slow process. They said it can take up to a year for your numbness to go away.
Wow. Those are really interesting things to think about. And like you said, I've heard so many different
Right.
symptoms from people after, so it's
Yeah,
really curious. Have you had any shocks?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, that is
I have not.
amazing. That's a
Yeah,
big win, Teresa.
it is.
Congrats.
It is, and every day, and but because of that, I have a lot of PTSD as well, because I'm always so scared of triggering it, and so that's another thing I think is just the mental health part of this. It's such a traumatic experience. TN is traumatic in itself, so it's not like, oh, it's over. Like I live with it all the time. I still, drink with my straw and things like that because you're just so scared of ever. It's like you just never want to wake it up again.
Exactly. So how are you managing the PTSD? What is that like?
It's hard in the sense of, I think a lot of times it's hard for those around you because I'm blessed. I'm actually off of my medicine as well, which I'm so happy about that. So I'm off of my
That's
medicine.
huge.
Yeah, I'm off of my medicine, and I haven't had any shocks. But you get nervous when with the numbness. Even my hair touching my face feels weird, and even putting makeup on, I'm like, oh. So it's hard with the PTSD. It will take time, and he was telling me, I just had my post-op visit last week, that it's very common. It's normal, and he said it would be beneficial to talk to a group of people that understand, which is what we're doing right now.
I love that so much. How how did your post-op appointment go?
It went good. It went good. He did say that the numbness will take time. I'm going to need speech therapy in the sense of, not as far as talking, but my jaw is having a few issues as far as, like, I can't open my mouth big enough to like eat a sandwich. things like that. So it does hurt when I eat. I think also because I only use my left side, it's hard to use this side. And everyone's like, well, just use it. And I'm like, I don't feel anything because I'm numb. So I don't want to bite my cheek or
Yeah.
bite my tongue. So it's hard to just, oh, just use it. Like I can't. It's not that easy.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's so,
he suggested speech therapy for that. He said that they have a lot of different, just different things that they do to kind of strengthen your jaw, the jaw area and the jaw muscles. And so I'll have to work through that. But he did say overall that it's good. It was so scary. He had to do his little test. He had to get like a safety pin and just my face, and I'm like, ah!
oh my gosh, how terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting how the speech therapy is going to help. I mean, it makes sense once you explain it
Yeah.
that you're just moving those muscles. So it'll be really interesting to follow along on your page while you go
Yeah.
through that process too.
I need to now. I'm gonna have to look into a speech therapist, and then if anyone knows about that process as far as speech therapy or even physical therapy for my jaw, I would really appreciate the advice because it's hard.
Yeah, it is. Your sister brought up a great point that I forgot to bring up. Do you want to share what Dr. Linsky discovered in your MVD?
Oh, sure. So what's interesting is that my scans never showed compressions. I never showed compressions, so my surgery was actually considered exploratory, is what he
Wow.
said. And so also with the trigeminal neuralgia, I was starting to develop hemifacial spasms. So whenever I would get my shocks, I would twitch. My eye would twitch as well. And it would be just like uncontrollably, just twitching. And so I was also developing that. So he had to look at two different cranial nerves, cranial nerve
Oh,
5,
wow.
PN nerve, and then cranial nerve 7. And I forgot what that nerve is responsible for, but it's where the hemifacial spasm is located. And so he found basically a bone that was hanging over the vein, or my sister can correct me if I'm wrong. It was hanging over the vein or the nerve. He had to shave that bone off. And then once he removed that bone, he found the vein that was digging into the nerve.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so he put in a Teflon there. And then he also found one for the hemifacial spasm. So I think each cranial nerve has a Teflon now.
Wow.
So it was wild.
That's really incredible. How did that feel going in, knowing that there wasn't any compression, it was exploratory, and then coming out and finding out the results? What did that feel?
I remember, I think that's the first thing I asked when I woke up. I was like, did he find something? And then my sister, when she finally told me, I was like, oh my, a bone? What in the world? I was like, a bone. And she was like, yeah. And so it was relief. And then that's something I think that's really important as well in finding your neurosurgeon. I'm not going to just say go to him. I want people to do their research, but he even told me do your research. He told me get multiple consultations, but you definitely want a surgeon that knows what to do when unexpected situations happen. And so I do think the bone issue is common. I forget, I think it's called Meckel's Cave is what the bone is called. And if you look it up, it's actually associated with the trigeminal nerve. And so I remember telling him right before I went under, I said, what if you don't find anything? And he's like, I always find it. And I was like, okay, you better.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah, and he was like, I always find it. He got so serious, like he just knew how important it was, and he just looked at me and was like, I will find it. Like he said it just like that. And so I'm just forever grateful for that.
I love that. That is so validating. And to have somebody that's still on your side. Do you have any more appointments with Dr. Linsky?
I will have to go again for my 1 year.
Okay.
And so I think that's part of the process as well. I think after that, I think he said as long as I keep going to him, I'll be a part of the they keep track of the MVDs to see what's been successful, what's worked, the issues people have been having. So I like that I'll be a part of that process. So I mean it's a pricey thing to think about, but I'll definitely be going again in August for my year.
I love that. And I mean, you're getting a trip to sunny California out of it,
Oh,
so you can't complain too much.
yeah. I always tell my sister we lived in Orange County for like a month.
Real Housewives of the OC. I love
Yeah,
it.
that was a
So, what are you up to now that you're post MVD, you're pain free? How is life going?
life is going, it's good. I think it's hard trying to figure out your life after the MVD and even after TN, because it's just something that's so traumatic, so debilitating, and it just robs you. It does. And so now I do have that PTSD. I have the whole grieving process. Like, what do I do now with my life? Because this is all I ever knew. And so I guess just trying to figure out what is Teresa like. Trying to figure out the new Teresa. Something that I just feel really passionate about is also raising awareness for TN. I know I've been talking to you a lot about that because I actually hid my condition for pretty much the entire time. I had a few people on Instagram. Mackenzie was one of the first people I followed, and she, I would always tell her like I want to share my story, but I'm so shy, and she's like, "You'll do it when you're ready. Don't worry." And so it's just I want to raise awareness. I think there's not enough information out there about the MVD, about trigeminal neuralgia, about the mental health part of it, because it's hard. Everyone's like, "Are you happy?" And it's like, I'm not. I don't know how to explain. I'm happy, but it's just hard. You just keep thinking about the past, and I think about all of just everyone else that's dealing with this and everyone that's going through this, and it's like I want to help them. And I always think about the people that don't know yet what they have, or they don't know about the support group. I didn't find a support group until years after. And I remember it took 2 years to get diagnosed, and I thought I was dying. I literally thought I was dying. All my medical results were normal and great, but here I am feeling like crap. And so it was a lot. It was a lot. And so now I just have this passion to just help people, and I want to use my experience to help others. I want to raise awareness. I want to talk about it. If anybody ever wants to ask me, "Hey, what did you do to when you couldn't eat?" Oh, I have my shortcuts for that. Okay? I have tricks for everything.
I love that. And you're so open and welcoming to just slide into Teresa's DMs. She is always available.
I'm always
I I'm just so grateful to have met you, Teresa. You have such a beautiful soul. You really do.
Thank you.
And you're going to bring a lot of awareness. You're already bringing a ton of awareness to this community, and I can't wait to see what's next for you.
You are too. Like I literally met you, I think, during my consultation or right before my MVD. I remember just meeting you and being so excited about it. And I shared my story for the first time on your page. And so you motivated me so much.
That's huge, Teresa. What made you, I want to circle back and ask you why you hid your condition for so long. What
I've always been naturally a really private person. Everyone tells me that. They're like, you go through things and you don't tell anybody. And I'm like, I don't know. It's so hard for me to open up. And so I didn't want people, it's such a rare condition. And like, people are going to look at me weird. They're going to judge me. They're going to treat me different. And then even at work, I worked pretty much throughout all my TN. I worked and just hiding that condition at work. It was a lot. Just that all of that is just so mentally draining. And so I hid it because I feared being judged. I feared being, you know, looked at differently. Oh, you're an easy target at work when they know you have health issues. And so I hid it. But now I look back on it, I'm like, I don't know why I hid it. It made it harder, actually. It made it harder, I think, when I look back on the journey, because then you're trying to act normal when you're literally like in pain and in excruciating pain. You're just trying to be normal. This is my normal. I have a chronic illness. I have chronic pain. And so my normal is not normal, but it's normal for me. And so,
exactly?
yeah,
Normalize your own normal.
exactly. Exactly.
I know you're probably not looking at the comments here, so I'm going to read you a note that Mackenzie wrote to you. She said that post-MVD mental battle is so tough. I'm forever proud of you for taking the tough steps and sharing your story. I hope you know what an amazing impact you're making.
Oh, she's gonna make me cry. It's an amazing
I
impact.
was I was tearing up just reading that. So
I know.
because we, I mean, truly, that is everything put into words right there. You can see how much of an impact you're making just in the 3 months since you've had your MVD. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. Keep going. We can't
Oh,
wait to see what you're gonna do.
thank you.
Um, but let's talk about, so are you comfortable telling your work friends now? You're at a new job. How are
Yeah.
you navigating that?
So I'm actually struggling with that because it's like, again, you're trying to be normal and I'm doing pretty good, but I still get very tired. I get tired easily. Um, I have a lot of nausea and appetite. I've lost a lot of weight throughout this process. And so you're trying to be normal, but you can't. And then you're numb and you're like, oh my God, can they see the numbness? Do they notice it? And things like that. And so I was only there, I started Wednesday. And then I always worry, like, oh my God, can they see my hair? Are they going to catch? Are they going to notice it? Because I feel like once you tell them, they're going to be like, oh, she just had surgery on, and people, they just look at you differently. I feel like you are just an easy target. So I don't, again, then that also comes from me being private, which is weird because I have like facing pain. I created facing pain and I'm having to show my most vulnerable part of myself through facing pain. But if I want to reach others, I have to do that. So it's kind of just that balance of, well, I guess if it happens, I might tell them. I don't know how other people navigated after MVD or just sharing it with people. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. It makes me
And
nervous.
I think that's okay to not be ready right now. I think you take all the time that you need and you do it whenever you're ready. And I think that you taking that step and starting facing pain is how you're getting through that, right?
It is. It is. And that was just part of, I was thinking about doing it for the longest. And so I had a facing pain. I made facing pain like last year. Um, Actually, when I went to see Dr. Lim is when I started. I was gonna vlog the process, and then you start, and then you don't start, and then you start. And I remember telling my sister, "What should the name be?" And I forgot what was happening. We were actually in the airport, and I was having like a panic attack about flying and provoking my shocks. And she was like, "You just need to face the pain. It's okay." And then I was like, "That's gonna be my name."
I love it. It's so cool to see how the names come about.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back. You're getting a couple messages here from Stacy. She's saying, remember though that it also means you are so strong. It shows so much strength. You're a rock star.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Your sister, and forgive me, I keep forgetting your sister's name, brain fog.
Oh, Elsie.
Elsie, okay, thank you for reminding me and thank you for your patience, Elsie. She said, I have always tried to push Teresa to share her story, and now that she is opening up, it is beautiful to see and beautiful how she has already helped so many people and is so supportive of others.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a twin, which is weird. I don't know if you knew that we were twin sisters, and so that's
I
interesting as well because it's like she's the healthy twin. I always say that. She's the healthy twin, and then I'm the one with like migraines and all these other issues. And so it's a twin fact. She felt my neck pain from the MVD.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. And
Yeah.
we have another set of twins,
Yeah.
and one has TN and one doesn't as well. So, what does that kind of look like? I can't even
Yeah.
imagine what, like you said, the healthy twin versus the TN warrior twin.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes, I think, because, I just look at myself and I'm always paranoid, vacations, wind, everything, you have to be careful. And I'm so happy that she's healthy. But sometimes, you can't help but just be jealous, you know, like, oh, I want this life. I want this life of not having to take medicine and things like that. But I'm so happy that she doesn't have it. And it's funny, I connect with the other twin. I love her. She's so sweet.
Laura is her name. We won't just keep her as the
Yes,
silent twin
yes.
out there.
Laura. I love Laura. She's so sweet. And we always talk about the twin connections. And so even throughout the MVD process, I think that it was interesting because I remember one day she woke up and was like, my neck hurts so bad. And it was like a few days after my MVD. And I was like, are you feeling my MVD neck pain? And I think she was. And she had another side effect. I forgot if it was the ears. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, my ears feel weird. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
That is so crazy. I can't even imagine. And I know we talked about getting Elsie's point of view as a
Yeah,
caregiver.
I think that's
I know
really good.
you're going to be working on that, so I cannot wait to see how that comes together because
Yeah,
that's going to be really interesting.
I think it will be. I think it was a lot for her. I think it's a lot for anyone because again, it's just so rare. It's such unfamiliar territory, and so you want to do it right. You don't want to do it wrong. And so she did a great job in just following everything that they said. That's one thing about my sister. She'll follow everything. So she's like, you need to get up, you need to sit down. No nap, only for an hour. And I'm like, ah.
I love that so
Yeah,
much. It sounds like she was the perfect caregiver.
she was really, really helpful.
So I'm going to circle back to something you said in the beginning that you suffer from another chronic illness.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about your endometriosis and kind of how you manage that and, you know, how that works with TN and
Yeah, so with the endometriosis, that's more of a recent, I guess, discovery we can say. I found that out in De October of 2019 is when I found out. So I have endometriosis and something that I was actually talking with Teresa, another MVD warrior, and we were talking about this today that there's probably, we believe there's a correlation between hormones and TN. I would love to I wish we could just have the whole community come together and be like, okay, what do you have and what do you have? Because I think all of this is, and we would probably figure it out on our own.
yeah, I think we
But
would.
yeah, I have endometriosis, so that would also trigger the TN, um, which is hard as well. So just even scheduling the MVD around the right time of the month and not provoke anything. It's just so much planning took place for the MVD. Um, and then even with endometriosis, I'm still, dealing with that. I try my hardest not to take a lot of medicine, so I'm trying to go more of a natural route. I have a friend that's a doula, and she suggested red raspberry leaf tea, and that's been very helpful.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all about the natural remedies.
Yes, I'll have to send it to you. It really helps.
And I guess I'm not saying this, but Teresa and I share the diagnosis of endometriosis. So it's another way that we connect. And it, you know, it's always hard to say, I'd love to connect with you that way, but
It
you
is.
know what I mean.
I know. It's weird because it's like I was telling you the other day, I like connecting with people with TN. If I love meeting people with TN. So if I know you're in the area, I'm gonna tell you. Can I meet you? Can we talk? Can we hang
Exactly.
out?
I love that. And you've met a couple warriors already.
I have. I met a few, and I actually met them all now that I think about it. Last year is when it all happened. No, actually, this year is when I met all of them at the same time. So I met the first one. He lived as well in Tennessee, and he had a successful MVD. And after seeing him and talking to him, that's when I also just opened my mind up to, okay, MVD is not, yes, it's a lot, but there's positive outcomes to it as well that I think we don't hear a lot of those. And so hearing his story and seeing how it helped him really encouraged me to, okay, maybe you should look into it a little bit. Maybe you should just talk, see what happens, get some consultations in. And so I met him. I met Viviana in California when I met Dr. Linsky. She was out there. And then I also met Alma recently. So that was refreshing.
I
And
love
I,
that.
yeah. So I love meeting people with TN. I feel like you instantly have a connection with them, you know? You can you can chew weird, you can do all these weird things that we do and they totally get it. They'll do it with you. They won't judge you for doing
I love that so much. You know, I have not met anyone with TN yet, and you just make it sound so much more appealing than it already is.
it. It is. We'll have to meet. That's my goal.
Yes, we will. 2022 is
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
So, as we wrap up here, Teresa, what is something that you want the community to know, whether it's about you or TN or MVD? The floor is yours.
I want this community to know that they are so strong. I feel like I'm going to get emotional.
That's okay, girl. You know this is the place to do it.
This is a condition that will change your life forever. And it has changed my life forever. And I just want to reach other people and I want my experience, whether it is good or bad, I still don't know. I feel it's too recent to say, oh, it was successful. I don't know. But whatever that outcome is, I just want people to know that I'm going to share it with them. I want people to know that there are other options. Um, don't think that there's not, you know, and talk to other people and get their experiences, but also remember that everyone's experience is different. Um, no one has the same side effects. Everyone I've talked to, every single person has had different side effects, and they've none of them have been similar to mine. They might have one thing or another, but not everything the same. And I just want people to know they can ask me anything from, hey, what did you eat when you couldn't eat? What were your go-to foods? What, you know, how do you, I taught someone how to drink from a straw with TN attacks. I showed someone how to do that once. And so just anything you want to know about MVD, about TN, life with TN. I worked full time with TN. I hid it from people for almost the entire time. So I know a lot. I've been through a lot when it comes to TN that I think I hid for a long time, and it's important to share because thanks to the people that do share, I was not alone. And that's when I realized there are people out here with the same condition. I remember seeing a few people for the first time, and I was just, my mind was just like, oh my goodness, it's not just me. It's not just in my head, it's real. And it was just the best feeling in the world. And so I just want people to know that I want to help them. I speak Spanish and English. I want to help the Hispanic community as well. There's not a lot of, I think, information for them. So I want to help them. Basically, to just contact me. We can talk about it. Don't ever feel alone. I think this has been a hard week in the TN community. I think we've talked about that. There's been 2 suicides, and so it's a condition that is very real. You know, the suicide disease, and it's something I don't want people to ever feel alone. Even if we have to talk about it, if I have to sit there with you, I will sit there with you. But you are not alone.
I love that. I have chills. I'm speechless, and you know that doesn't happen often. So I think that's a great note to leave off on, Teresa. I am in awe of your strength and your journey. I
Thank
cannot
you.
wait to see what the next year brings for you. You have such a beautiful soul.
Thank
Make
you.
sure to follow Teresa's page, Facing Pain. She's a great resource for MVD, TN life. I know I'm going to be talking to her about how she was working full time. So,
I'm nervous about that, so please keep me in your thoughts and prayers.
yes. Stay strong, everybody. Thank you, Teresa,
Yes,
for being so vulnerable and sharing your energy with us today.
thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Of course. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Stay strong.
Bye. I don't